I'm standing here on the Mohawk River, a few miles northwest of Albany, and back of me, the spectacular Cohoes Falls. Back in the 17th century, the Mohawk River was the main highway through this part of the state for the local American Indians, mostly Mohawks, to bring beaver pelts down through the valley to Fort Orange to trade them with the Dutch for the goods the Indians needed. Those pelts are going to be the basis for the future great fortunes of both New York City and New York State.
The original resource, the exploitable resource in New Netherland was furs. The Dutch are astride the unique geographical configuration of the Mohawk and Hudson rivers, and the amount of furs that can come from the west seems to be unlimited.
The one problem? Those beautiful falls in back of me. It prevented the Indians from taking the river all the way into Albany. About 18 miles west of the city, they had to leave the river around where Schenectady is today and literally take those pelts on their back and trek the last 18 miles into Albany.
Nothing annoyed the Indians more than getting to a trading post and find out that after hauling all of these heavy packs of furs, that there was nothing there for them to trade for. As long as they could keep the trading post well stocked with goods that the Indians wanted, the Indians would continue to bring the furs to them.
Between 1626 and 32, over 50,000 beaver pelts were sent back from here to the Netherlands. By 1657, at the height of the beaver trade, over 38,000 pelts were shipped abroad. Why did the Europeans need all these pelts? For fashion. Back in the Netherlands, the beaver pelts were processed into a beautiful felt-like material and then turned into exquisite broad-brimmed hats. The fur trade around Fort Orange comes to a sudden halt when the Dutch backed the wrong side in a war between the Mohegan and Mohawk Indians. Peter Minuet is now the director of New Netherland Colony. He thinks the situation is too dangerous, and he recalls all these newly settled pioneers back to the more defensible New Amsterdam at the southern tip of Manhattan. It's 1626, and the plans for Fort Amsterdam here in New Amsterdam are well underway. That fort is going to defend us against our European enemies, specifically the Spanish. There's one more item to accomplish to set this colony up on the right foot. Manhattan has to be purchased from the Indians. The key word there is purchase. Other European powers would have conquered Manhattan, probably enslaving the Indians, even killing them. That's not how the Dutch did things. So Peter Minuet purchased Manhattan Island from the Indians for 60 guilders. Now, the Indians didn't have a concept of purchasing land. To them, that agreement was probably more of a lease, a rental, plus a treaty between two peoples. As for that famous $24 price tag, that was set back in the 19th century when the document of the sale was unearthed. Needless to say, with inflation by now, the sum would be much more. But the price of Manhattan Island is beside the point. What is the point is that what became New York began as a business deal and not a bloody conquest. That was the difference between the Dutch and the other Europeans.